How to mix vocals the right way. So I'm gonna start this video off by saying, first of all, I hate videos like that. I hate videos that are titled like that. I know that's not what you want to hear, and that's not, and I know I got you to click on this video by saying that, but there is no right way to actually mix vocals, and I'm going to prove that to you by showing you what I used to do and why I stopped doing it. So in this video, it is a real repeatable process, but it's not a fixed recipe. It's just about vocals and the actual decisions behind them. So everything starts at the source. In a perfect world, it's going to be the right performance, the right mic for that vocal. It's going to be a great room, and it's going to be recorded through great analog vocal chains. But that's not always the case. But when that is the case, it always makes the process a lot easier inside the DAW. Now, this isn't just my opinion either. Like, a lot of veteran engineers feel this way. I'm sure you guys have probably heard the saying, garbage in, garbage out. If the source itself is wrong, nothing down the stream is really going to be able to fix it. You're just going to mask it with certain tools and hope to make it sound a little bit better. I had to learn this the hard way. So when I first started, I got my recording template from my mentor and I copied every single setting, all the plugins, and I used it on every single vocal. And before I had a well-trained ear and before I built a studio, I thought I was actually, performing really well, getting great mixes. I was pumping things out like quickly and fast, and I thought it sounded good at the time. But as things progressed, as I got my own studio, I I built a good room. I got better pre's, I got better microphones, and I started to notice after using that template for some years that something just wasn't really quite right. So I started muting certain plugins that were inside my template, and I just noticed that the vocals started to sound cleaner and more natural. And that was a great moment for me because that's when I learned that trusting my ear was far more important than trusting some template to do the work for me. Now, even though there is no right way, there are tools that I use on almost every single vocal. So in this order, I will usually start with clip gain, clip cleanup. So in order to do this, what I do is I scrub through the vocal and I listen for any clicks, any pops, any breaths or S's that need to be tamed. And I'll just go through and manually clip gain certain clips just to get a good, even performance before I add any type of EQ or compression. And then once that's done, that's when I'll actually start applying things like EQ, de-esser, compression, and a multiband compressor. So those four things I pretty much use on every single vocal, but how I use them changes depending on the source. Now, I don't think it matters what plugins that I use, but it's just using those four types of plugins is what the point is. So I use the RDesser, but use your favorite de-esser. I use FabFilter Pro Q for surgical cutting almost all the time on everything. I feel like it's a very versatile tool, but if you don't have it, just use any parametric EQ or your favorite one. I use RComp for compression, and then I use the MC404 from MIG for my multi-band compression. This is where I get most of my tone. Controlling the four main bands of a vocal from your low mids, your low highs to your high highs and to the low lows. That one's a very versatile tool as well. But again, it's not really about the tools, but just using your favorite versions of those. If you don't have them, it's more important of why you're using the tools. The decisions behind the tools matters more. So as the tools stay the same, the moves don't. So depending on the vocal, like if I get a vocal that's been very poorly recorded, maybe someone recorded at home and they don't have proper recording techniques, like that vocal is gonna have probably a lot more cuts and they'll be a lot more drastic. But maybe I get vocals that have already been processed. That's a completely different, mindset to mix versus something that hasn't been properly recorded at all. Sometimes I'll listen to a demo and I'll tell them to send me the vocals exactly how they are with the treatment you have on them. For one, they're probably used to how it sounds already, and it might be a good enough starting point for me to achieve better results. Like, I don't have to completely remake the vocal chain when I can just start from where they left off. And if I'm doing that, then it's usually a lot more subtle moves, like subtler EQ change, subtler compression settings. You know, you got to be able to listen. You got to use your ears in order to make these decisions. It's not using the same vocal settings every single time. It's what does this specific vocal need right now? So those 4 plugins that I mentioned are how I achieve a very natural, clean sounding performance. And then everything after that is really based on the song. So whether I add distortion or saturation, all my time-based effects are how I'm feeling or how the song is making me feel. I might not want to add such aggressive distortion on it if it's not called for that. So if my template or whatever has that baked in, then you're not really doing the job of an engineer. You need to listen to the song and then make your creative decisions based off of the emotions and the feeling that the song is giving you, and you'll end up with way better results, and you'll end up with a more unique sound that's actually catered to the song itself. The chain isn't always what makes a vocal mix good. It's the source and your ear. If you can take one thing away from this video, it's stop looking for a specific preset. Don't go out there and buy the Drake vocal preset or the Tory Lanez vocal preset. Like, that's not always going to work for you. You need to actually listen to the vocal that's in front of you. If you want to use presets and templates as a starting point, that's great. If it helps you create faster, fine. I'm not against that. Like, I still use a template. I still have presets, but they are starting points. They're not the end all be all. It's not a set it and forget it. I'll start there and then I'll make my decisions based on the source and what I'm hearing. But, that's me. That's my thought process behind this. I just don't believe that there is a one size fits all in audio. But that's all I have on this topic. If you want to discuss more, if you want to join a free community of other audio engineers and producers, like-minded individuals, I have a free community that you can sign up for, and I will leave a link to that in the description below. Until next time, peace.